Hello everyone, Big Seven here, back for another SuperCoach video. As you might be able to tell from the title, it was a pretty mixed week for myself. Scoring 2,201, had some players that did really well, some problem areas that need to be fixed, and this is probably the most pivotal week of the year, aside from maybe creating the team. This is your last chance to correct any players that need to be corrected, bring in your must-haves before the prices go up this week. So 2,201, let's get straight into the side. It leaves me at just inside the top 4,000. I mean, rank doesn't really matter that much this early on. It's really more important to have the right team structure, have all the must-haves, and if you do that, then you'll find yourself moving up in the ranks in future weeks fairly rapidly. So, starting with the defense, Sicily, Doherty, Dawson. Sicily, fairly solid. I think he had a few clangers early on. That ball's just going to be in the Hawks backline all year. Sicily, very good option, although only 99 points. Still, could be worse. Sam Doherty, he's someone that concerns me a little bit. I mean, he's probably a hold in most cases, but he's played 8 quarters of footy so far, and he's really only had one good one. His score last week was popped up by a massive third quarter, only 73 this week. I mean, he's scoring. It can be up and down. I will give him that. So definitely not worth panicking on in most cases. And then Jordan Dawson, solid 110. Not really too much that needs to be said about him. 103 average for the season thus far. Very solid starting pick. The player that probably does need to be mentioned, that is the omission in here, is Nick Dacos. I wanted to bring him in last week, but I didn't see a good way of doing so. So, and I thought, maybe Port Adelaide with the tag coming up, we'll see what's the best route to get him in. And boy, 149 with a tag, Dacos is a must-have. I don't care what you need to do, you need to get him in. And then the rookies, Jinby, McKenna, Constable, all solid, if not spectacular. Constable, his job security a little bit up in the air, but I think Ben Long is the one that goes out of the side before him. So a little bit confident on him keeping his spot in the meantime. And then Wilmot and Cowan, both doing all right on the bench. Wilmot could be a field option in the future, 68 points, but I'm happy with the defense at the moment, apart from the lack of Dacos. The midfield is really propping up my side at the moment. It's the three big boys I've got in there. Bontempelli, LDU, oh my goodness. LDU, what a great starting pick. I'm so happy I got him. But if you're picking any of the three midfielders, Bontempelli, LDU, and Tom Green, that's probably close to, if not the ideal combination to have. So very happy to have nailed that. Bontempelli just going to be solid going forward. I did say in my 7 premium midfielders, I put LDU in there, and I said that he's probably one that you needed to have started given his easy fixture run rather than trading him in. I've got to go back on that advice. I didn't expect him to be performing to this level. 140 reasonable against West Coast, but to come out and back it up against Fremantle and with the soft matchup against Hawthorn this week as well, there's a clear case to trade him in if you don't have other problem areas. And then the other one, Tom Green, was expecting a bit of a feast there, only 106 as GWS got rolled by West Coast. Ended up with Bontempelli as my vice captain, elected to take the 125. Tom Green was going to be my captain option, so gained a few points there. Connor Rozee making a guest appearance in the midfield, and that's mainly because of a guy that is currently sitting on my bench in the midfield, and that's Tanner Bruin. I did end up making a trade last week, which I wasn't planning on doing it. I thought Tanner Bruin was like a reasonable chance to come good. He had some excuses for his poor game last week with Parfitt coming on as a sub. Um, but I saw the 46 score and I wasn't taking that. The player I ended up trading out was Jack Bartel. I think I can find that in the history. Yeah, so just the one trade, Jack Bartel. I wasn't sure if he was going to come back in a timely manner or not. When I looked on Friday, reports were that he was still in hospital from a cut knee. So I just wasn't sure how long the time frame would be for him for his injury, and also if he's going to be a walk back into the best 22 for St Kilda. And now that they've won two on the trot, it'll be interesting to see if Bartel comes straight back in. Although Jack Steele with the injury, I guess the spot is there for Bartel to come back. I mean, worst case scenario, I have to trade him back in. I'm okay with that to get Chandler. I'll go into him in a sec. So Connor Rozee, guest appearance in midfield, only 92. Port Adelaide got belted. Rozee only had 50% CBAs. I was expecting that to be a bit higher, but with Lockie Jones trying to tag Nick Dacos, Dacos did spend a bit of time in the midfield, and that meant that some of those Port Adelaide mids were getting kicked out so that Lockie Jones could go into midfield as well. So Connor Rozee, not really worried about. Mid prices, Jacob Hopper, outstanding, 119. I know some people were getting cold feet on him, myself included. If he dropped another 60 or 70, then he was someone that would have been turfed to another mid-pricer, but 119, and this is why you generally don't trade in round two, because it's only a one-game sample, and Hopper looked good in this game, so happy to have him. And then Warple, 99. I think we're going to see a lot of scores around the 90 to 100 range for Warple, and that 310k, happy with that. Will Ashcroft, 105. He looked great. Didn't actually get that many CBAs, but was around the contest a fair bit. So he's someone that you need to have. Cam McKenzie, the kind of the opposite. Had a large amount of CBAs in the first game, got kicked out, and I didn't actually watch that game, but yeah, it sounded like he wasn't at the contest. Only 52. So if you don't have him, he's probably a watch rather than a trade-in, I think. Tanner Bruin went into him a little bit before, but I guess to expand on that, I was expecting Bruin to play majority midfield. Geelong with a Selwood-sized hole. Bruin looking good in pre-season. It looked like all the stars had aligned, but the star at the top of the tree is Chris Scott, and he decided that instead of Bruin getting that midfield time, it looks to have gone more to Blitzovs, and Bruin just not getting enough CBA time to warrant being a pick, and that score of 46 reflects it. I'm happy to have looped it. I mean, I did concede it was a decent possibility, which is why I looped him in. And so Chandler was the one that would have ended up playing over Bruin, so 25 points gained there. And I guess that's the thing I'm liking about my season so far. My team isn't perfect, missing a few must-haves in my opinion, but I'm getting those little gains like the Chandlers over the Bruins. Last week not captaining, like I don't have lead obviously, but not making captaincy blunders. It's just the little things here and there that are kind of propping me up at the moment. I think the structure is fairly good and fairly fixable. Baker and Chesser on the bench. Chesser is one that you could trade out if you need to. I've got all of the rookies that I think I want. Like I could get a Philippou or a Hollins, but for the 40k more, I'm pretty content just leaving Chesser at M11, and that defensive swing might be useful in the future. And then onto the conundrum that is called the Rucks. Sean Darcy. Oh my goodness. What a way to ruin a weekend. he had a great record coming into the game against North Melbourne, and I didn't end up watching the game, but it just sounded like he was dropping marks, playing as tackles that players were breaking out of. And yeah, 41 score, and he did have a large percent of the CBAs, but not the ruck contests around the ground. And I think he was kind of someone, it sounds like he was someone that suffered from Fife being out, because that Fremantle forward line is pretty small. Obviously, Taberner down there, but I don't think he's 100% because he's been subbed out of the last, out of both games. And he's someone, when he's fit, you would consider to be clearly in their best, 10 to 12 players. And they brought in a miss as a laid in for 5. He's still young and developing. Didn't play Tracy for some reason, so it sounded like Darcy spent a bit of time forward, and that's really alarming going forward. I've picked him to be a number 1 ruck. He should be a number 1. He should be getting the majority of the ruck time, and he isn't. And I'm just not sure what to think about Justin Longmuir at the moment. Fremantle, that's 2 pretty bad losses that they've had. And the game style is, from what I've heard, isn't holding up. Yes, their defenders are cooking, but that's because the ball's down there all the time and they can't transition the ball up the field. So, look, Sean Darcy, a trade if you can. I guess I'll go into that when I'm going through my proposed trades. Rowan Marshall, I almost didn't start him. I'm very glad that I guess I saw the light. 129. Him and English didn't really play on each other. Both were loose all game, but still, Rowan Marshall playing as the lone ruck, getting a large amount of CBA's ruck contests, and doing things around the ground. So very happy to have Rowan Marshall. And then the forward line, fairly straightforward. Dunkley, Taranto, Goulden, obviously Rosie in my mids, but just for this week. Dunkley, good as always. Taranto, solid 95. Goulden, 107. Flanders, 46. He was on, I think, 41 at halftime and completely faded out second half. I expected better from him. A lot of raps pre-season, but he just hasn't lived up to that hype. So he's someone that'll probably go for me. She's 114, must have, absolute pig down back. And for him to be putting up 114 in his second game, it's crazy. The player I brought in to round out the forward line, Cade Chandler, he looked good, only scored 71. Melbourne were outplayed for most of the night, so that 71 is pretty encouraging. He gets up the ground, he tackles, he's involved in score involvements. I'm very happy to have Chandler, and I don't think there's any concern around his job security going forward. He's playing too well, and I also think that the Melbourne structure, I think they want to play the 2 small forwards with Cozzy Pickett as that third small forward, but also getting midfield time. 2 guys on the bench, Green and Davey, both going to make money going forward, so no need to trade them. And yeah, so that's the team as it stands at the moment. In terms of rookies, I'm pretty happy with pretty much all of the rookies that I've got. So I'm going to be making 3 trades this week, and there's a number of players that I consider to be must-have or close to must-have that absolutely dominated last week. And I've also got the players to trade them out. So Flanders, he is going to go. Almost click the C button. Definitely not going to be a captain because you are gone, mate. So Flanders going. Tanner Bruin also going. And there were a couple of mid-prices that have made a really strong case, and I will be putting them into my side. First one, Will Setterfield. A few astute people got onto him fairly early on in the season. Started him. I didn't see it. I thought that Essendon would rotate a few players through midfield, but it really looks to be only the 4 midfielders that are getting the majority of time. Setterfield, Shield, Parrish, and Merritt. It just seems to be those 4. And in that kind of role, Setterfield can average somewhere between 110 and 100. Between 100 and 110, I think. 147 on the weekend. I mean, that's more of a blue moon score than the expectation. But still, in that role, he's going to score very well. And someone that I missed probably because I was unsure about his role. I didn't think he was going to get as many CBAs as he is getting at mid-time. But he really complements that Essendon midfield group really well. And I'm not prepared to miss out on him. The other player that is mid-pricer and I don't want to miss out on is Jack Zeeble. And it feels kind of gross that he is relevant in 2023. And he's 32 years old. But he is an absolute pig down back with Sheasel. Both of them just going to rack up the ball every game. And in that kind of junk role, Zeeble, he's actually playing better than he has in the past as well. But in that junk role, I think he's almost essential. I think he's going to average less than Setterfield. He might only be a 9,500 player, but still at 350k. I mean, if he averages 100, he'll surpass 500k. And at that price, he's just someone that you need to pick up. And so the last player, I've mentioned him a few times, that is a must-have is Nick Dacos. And looking at this side, there isn't really any big problems. But Dacos, I think, is that much of a must-have that you need to move heaven and earth to get him in. And so the player, looking at break-evens, the player that is probably the most expendable for me is Sam Doherty with that 160 break-even. Also, the low 71 score that'll be in 2 price cycles. And I've got Sicily and Dawson, but I have a bit more faith in them. Doherty just hasn't met expectations. I think in most cases he's a hold, but I'm going to get rid of him and bring in Nick Dacos. The other trade I could consider doing is getting rid of Sean Darcy. And trust me, I really, really am tempted to do that. But I guess the thing with Darcy, I think these trades are more essential. Bruin, Flanders definitely need to get rid of. Setterfield, Zeeble, Dacos are the ones that need to come in. And there isn't a way to get Darcy to Dacos using DPP swings. So I'm going to back Darcy in. The main reason for that is they have a really soft matchup in West Coast. And I know matchups aren't the be-all and end-all. And if Darcy plays majority forward, then it probably won't matter that much. But against West Coast, Bailey Williams, he conceded 80 against Comben in the first week. And Sherry was cooking against him in the first few minutes before he got injured. And Comben isn't really a recognised ruckman. And then last week, Matt Flynn, I think, I'm not exactly sure how much he went on him. I'll have a look if I can type properly. So Matt Flynn, he went 132. And look, as much as I would love to get rid of Sean Darcy after he's just burnt me, I think he's a hold for another week, a very reluctant hold. If he doesn't go 120, 130, then he's definitely gone going into round 4. But I think for me, I have to hold him. And look, he's very, I don't know, he should repay the faith, but he also should have scored well last week. So you just never know. The man's a roller coaster, and I'm just not sure if I want to be on this ride. I'm looking at the rest of the team. I'm going to optimize it, see what it gives me. That looks pretty solid to me. I don't really see any deficiencies in this side. And it would be nice to have, maybe someone like a Will Day, who could be a mid-price pod. Someone like a Hollins or a Philippou. But I think this side is really solid. And I think with the amount of issues that other people are going to have this week, Setterfield, Zeeble, even Chandler, all fairly low owned going into this week. I think people will have to bring in all three, essentially. Um, People missing Dacos and LDU absolutely on fire as well. I think LDU is definitely up there in terms of trade ins. But I think, yeah, some people are going to bring in LDU at the expense of one of these mid prices, and that'll cost them cash gen in the long run. And some people will, I think, make the correct decision of going without LDU and getting your Setterfield, your Zeeble, your Chandlers, your Dacoses. And I guess my advantage over them is that I have LDU. I think, and touch wood, but I think my team is fairly, apart from Darcy, I think fairly close to a perfect team. So I'm looking forward to seeing how much carnage we get this week. I mean, I've avoided most of the carnage thus far, so that has put me in a fortunate position. I mean, you look at all the players that have been injured. You've had Stewart injured, Liam Jones, people that had him fielded a 5, Jack Steele injured, Max Gawn now injured. And then guys like McRae, I don't know what Bevo is doing in terms of McRae's role. I mean, he was lining up at full forward in the third quarter. I mean, he was someone I was close to picking, and it's just disgusting if you've picked him. I mean, yes, it is Bevo, and Bevo is prone to that kind of stuff, but really, McRae at full forward? Really, Bevo? Really? And, Ed Richards as a pod, he's forward as well. Well, really, Bevo? Come on, mate. You've got to do better than that. And yeah, last point of the video, vice captain and captain going into this week. I think it's pretty interesting, especially a side like myself. I mean, if you have Clayton Oliver or Laird, you've got a very solid captain option, whereas I don't have that, especially this week. Marcus Bontempelli and Josh Dunkley, probably my two best candidates. I think I haven't decided who I'll go for out of Dunkley and Bontempelli. Dunkley has the narrative of the revenge game, having been surplus to requirements at the Dogs, although Marcus Bontempelli, I mean, just a very solid player. I don't know, you maybe get the feeling that he might take this game a bit more personally as well. 125 last week in a smashing as well. And it's a toss-up for me. I think I'll go Dunkley with the narrative of the revenge game, but, it could change that. And then captain, Luke Davies-Uniacke, very tempting. And Finn McGuinness is playing, likely to play for Hawthorn. I'm not sure if he tags LDU or if he goes to a Zeeble or a Sheasel. I don't think he'll be able to run with LDU. So tempted to go LDU captain. Could go Dacos as well, which is crazy to think that I'm captaining a second-year player. He's definitely one that's in consideration as well. And yeah, I think it's probably between those two for a captain for me. So I could potentially get burnt on that front. So the things I'm hoping for this week, Darcy, you'd better turn up. Otherwise, it's going to be a sad story. Hopefully, I can get a good vice captain score. And I just hope for the sake of the community that there isn't too much more carnage on the agenda. I'm fortunate to be in this position, but with the amount of carnage that's going on, you kind of, I don't know, it's a bit much. Just SuperCoach gods just need to just turn the volume down on the injury meter. So thanks everyone for watching. I'll see you for my next video. Hopefully I'm not in a world of pain, and hoping that you guys all have a great week as well. I'll see you for the next video.